Mike Johnson, Pwinsidertv, with this handsome young man from the Legends
House. You're talking about me.
Talking about you. We're with WWE Hall of Famer Hacksaw Jim Duggan. We just watched the premiere of WWE Legends House. Now, you obviously filmed it. You lived through it. How different was the first episode from your preconceived notions of what the show might be?
Well, I thought it actually covered it pretty good. You know, with Piper and I first meeting each other, you could kind of see the awkwardness of us first meeting each other, but then we became fast friends, and I think right off the bat, we saw Tony Atlas and I had a little confrontation, a little button heads, and that's a big part of the show also. So I think the first episode is kind of encapsulate what's happening, at least with me.
Now, we're just about a week or so after Wrestlemania. You were down there at the Superdome. How different is it to walk into that building all these years later in comparison to Mid-South? Obviously different bosses, obviously you're there in a different role, but you know, do you feel the ghosts when you go back into a building like that so many years later?
It's nice to go back to Louisiana. You know, that's where I became Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and that's where I got my first break. Of course, I did a lot of Superdome shows, but of course, a different level. You come in with the WWE, you know, it's a whole different deal. We maybe had 30, 40, 50,000 people at the Dome at Mid-South. They had 75,000 people jammed in that Dome. Everybody excited to see Hogan, The Rock, and not my favorite guy, Stone Cold. But it was a great night, and it's great to still be part of the organization, you know, all these years later.
Let me ask you this: what Mid-South personalities would fit into the Legends House? I don't see Bill Watts being a big Legends House guy.
Well, maybe not Bill Watts, but you know, Ted DiBiase, of course. Jake the Snake was just put in this year. He's a Mid-South guy. Shawn Michaels, he's a Mid-South guy. Mid-South was a great training territory. Not only did you learn to work in the ring, but you also learned how to talk on the microphone, which is a big part of our business. And Bill Watts was a taskmaster. If you didn't do it right, do it again. And that's why you see so many guys that are WWE or past WWE superstars came out of the Mid-South territory.
Now, you and Roddy starred in Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies together, that future Oscar winner. You know, now, did the relationship...
Practicing my speech, I'd like to thank the Academy.
Did the relationship between you and Roddy sort of lead to you doing the film, or did that film come before Legends House?
I think it just kind of married together, because I talked to somebody totally different than Roddy for Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies, and when I got there, they're like, well, Piper's in it. I'm like, oh, the double plus for me.
The whammy.
Of course, not to give the story away, we're doing the read-through at the end, and it's like Piper finds Duggan as a zombie. Piper kills Duggan, but feels bad about it. I'm like, Piper, that'll be some great acting.
Now, you know, how much of a difference is it for you when you're in the reality setting with all the cameras and they're filming you 24 hours a day versus being Hacksaw Jim Duggan and walking around in public all day where everybody knows who you are, people are yelling ho at you all day? How, you know, is it different? Do you feel like you have to be on all the time, or are you just you all the time at this point?
I think Hacksaw is an extension of my personality. I enjoy people, I enjoy talking to folks. And what you see at Legend House is kind of the way I am. You know, my character may be a little bit over the top, but it's part of Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Now, you had a lot of big roles in WWE. You were pretty much the guy that worked with the top villains before they went on to face the champion. Right. You know, at times, Jake Roberts in the past was kind of critical of being in a similar role. Do you kind of feel like maybe that should have been your spot up at the top, or do you feel like that was kind of like almost like your honor is that they kind of had to go through trial by fire by working with you to prove that they were worthy of working the main events?
Actually, it was a very good spot for me, I thought, you know, because I could wrestle anybody, any champion, and not hurt the champion because I could get beat 1, 2, 3 in the middle, but I get up, I get my 2x4, I hit him, I hit the referee, I hit the timekeeper, I hit whoever's around the ring with a 2x4. I end up in the middle of the ring going, ho, USA, USA. Didn't really matter if I won or lost the match.
So no matter what, you kept the crowd's attention, and that's what was important.
That's true, right? That's the deal. You just want to stay over, and I've been lucky enough to have the fan support for 35 years.
So what's the secret to keeping yourself sane when you're rooming with Roddy Piper?
I don't know if there's any secret to keeping sane with Piper. I think we're both right on the edge of going off the other way. think we both kind of kept each other sane, and it worked well. And I tell you, I want to thank Legends House for letting me get to know one of my best friends in my life.
Now, was it weird to really get into and really start to know some of these guys? Because I think there's this misconception of, well, they're all on the road together, so they all must be buddies and they're all part of the same fraternity. But, you know, in speaking to you earlier, it's not really like that, even in the locker rooms.
No, it's a extremely competitive business, professional wrestling. I tell kids, they say, I want to be a WWE wrestler. I said, son, there's 1,500 NFL football players. There's 1,000 NBA basketball players. There's 120 wrestlers. It's a very competitive business in our wrestling. And of course, you're always congenial with people, but you have very few friends, a lot of acquaintances, and a couple of enemies.
So why should fans check out Legends House if they're not already subscribing to the network?
Well, even if you're not a wrestling fan, you gotta love the dynamics of taking 8 A-type personalities, jamming us in a house together, even though it was a beautiful mansion in Palm Springs, for 5 weeks with no cell phones, no computers, no TVs. There's a lot of dynamics going, a wrestling fan or not. It's an entertaining show.
You didn't even have your 2x4, it didn't seem.
Well, they had a 2x4, but they wouldn't let me bring it. Because Tony Atlas is around here somewhere.
All right, well, Hacksaw, we thank you very much. We wish Legends House nothing but the best, and you as well. We thank you for your time.
Well, my pleasure, but before you go, young guy, give it to me on the other side of the camera.
All right.
Ho! Ho like you mean it, kid.